Most of us have had a so-called déjà vu moment where for a brief instant we are convinced we have had that experience before. While a brain scientist might easily explain the phenomenon, there are some who believe that these moments are a glimpse into a previous life, and some have claimed that we accumulate baggage from these previous incarnations, which causes problems today. Here we look at a psychiatrist who did not believe in reincarnation, but found himself inadvertently regressing a patient whose anxiety disorders could be assisted in no other way. She was still carrying fears from a long series of lives where she was exposed to war, natural disasters, and other frightening events. In 1980, psychiatrist Brian Weiss was attended by a woman called Catherine for help with her anxiety, panic attacks, and phobias. Over the next 18 months, the doctor used tried and tested methods of therapy to assist her in overcoming her symptoms. When, after this time, they were having no effect in relieving her distress, he finally included in his treatment the use of hypnosis. This involved regressing Catherine to her childhood, at times to as young as 3 years, to uncover traumatic events that may have set up her anxiety triggers. However, nothing seemed to work, as her distressing symptoms stubbornly remained. Strangely, at one stage Catherine began to talk about scenarios that Weiss knew had not happened during her childhood. This was when he first realised that her trance state had taken her back to a past life, which was emerging as a causative factor of her condition. It should be noted that neither Weiss nor his patient had ever believed in reincarnation up to this point. Catherine, a 27-year-old laboratory assistant, had been raised a staunch Roman Catholic, while Weiss, a scientist by training and conservative by nature, mistrusted any ideas that could not be justified by rational empiricism. One thing that lent authenticity to Catherine's accounts of her past 86 lives in total was that she always seemed to have been an ordinary person. Whether male or female, she lived out her lives as a servant, maid, soldier, labourer, or some other underling, and was usually poor. But the clincher came for Weiss when, during one session, she disclosed astonishing knowledge of his own personal life, referring to things that she could not have possibly known about and their spiritual meaning for him. Seemingly as a channel for another being, she described meeting his father and small child, Weiss's baby boy, both of whom had passed away. The being knew the name of his father, that Weiss had named his daughter after him, and the medical cause of both his and the baby's death. Having been initially sceptical of what he was uncovering, Weiss was overawed by these revelations, as Catherine knew next to nothing about his personal history. Another persuasive element was that Catherine had stored knowledge of expertise she had learned during her multiple incarnations, some of them possibly long-forgotten skills, such as those involved in herbalism and embalming bodies. She could give a detailed how-to on butter churning learnt in one life, while in another she had served as a World War II pilot, using in her accounts terminology that no ordinary modern person would know. However, it became clear that the whole point of repeatedly returning to the mortal plane was to garner spiritual learnings, lessons which would assist in her development as a higher being. Over the months of Catherine's therapy, Weiss realised that, of her many incarnations, only 6 or 7 were significant in providing this learning. During Catherine's therapy sessions, she would be regressed to a previous lifetime and describe the circumstances she was able to discern from some kind of remote viewing. These descriptions could be quite detailed, including that of her appearance, the people around her, the work she was doing, and clues about the era, such as her clothing, coin, or a building. They also included the events which impacted her, sometimes causing her life to end, and very probably the residual trauma that she seemed to carry in her subconscious. Very early in Catherine's therapy, she recalled one life from 1863 BC, in which she had drowned in a terrifying flood. Despite Weiss's concerns that the memory could worsen her anxiety, the following week she burst into his office with the news that her fear and nightmares of drowning had disappeared. In another life, she recalled having her throat slashed in battle, echoed centuries later by dread of suffocation when coming out of an anaesthetic. With this revelation and her increased awareness, Catherine's fear of choking also diminished. In yet another existence, she was cast out from her village as she had contracted a lethal skin disease, spending her final days sealed into a cave. This life seemed to be linked to her present-day fear of enclosed spaces. After 18 months of fruitless traditional psychotherapy, Catherine made astonishingly rapid progress with the use of past life regressions. A strange phenomenon developed in the pattern her consultations started to take. A surprising aspect of the therapy occurred when Weiss progressed Catherine to the end points of some of her lives. With the departure from her body, she experienced a sense of peace and freedom as she seemed to progress to a higher spiritual plane. Her conscious soul would leave her body, float upwards, and then be drawn to an energizing light, where she would wait for someone to come and help her. Often, eerily at first, Catherine would then start to speak in a different voice and with a new kind of authority. When resting between accounts of two lives, Catherine seemed to be able to channel messages from highly evolved spirits who called themselves masters. Weiss called these pauses in-between times, when Catherine's voice changed to a loud, husky and confident tone, which imparted knowledge and insights about the spiritual journey. These included revelations about stages in the astral plane and the repayment of karmic debt during earthly existence. On awakening, Catherine would remember details of the lives she had visited, but never the messages of the masters. An interesting aspect of her lifetime learnings was the apparent reincarnating of people in familiar groups. In her diverse lives, Catherine encountered her parents, friends, and current partner in varying roles, as each tried to resolve lessons to be learnt together. It took just over 3 months of past life therapy for Catherine's cure to become complete. The anxiety and phobias, which had emotionally paralysed her since childhood, had disappeared, and she had become a happy person who now radiated an inner peace. Weiss also wondered if the actual process of realising that death was not a finality may too have also been part of the cure. Weiss was later able to verify elements of Catherine's accounts by looking through historical records. He went on to publish books on the healing power of past life therapy and has regressed more than 4,000 patients since his work with Catherine. It needs to be said that experts caution against trying past life regression by yourself. If you embark on this journey, make sure that you have a qualified practitioner to guide and assist you.